Welcome to the World of Puppetry Museum. We are so excited to tell you about the puppets we have here, a little bit about their history, some puppet culture, and being creative. And we'd like to take you on a little tour here. Isn't that right, Mr. Punch? Oh, absolutely. We're going to take a tour. So the first thing we're going to talk about is shadow puppets. Thank you. We think that the first puppets that ever existed were shadow puppets. It was a culture and time when people didn't have books, movies, TV, or cameras, or even cell phones. And they had to find ways to entertain themselves. The first in recorded history would have been in Indonesia, when people started with the idea of cutting puppets out of leather and using them to tell stories. Now here's my first shadow puppet. If people were sitting around a campfire and telling stories, they could have talked about the bunny rabbit going through, or the wolf chasing it, or maybe even just talked about the birds that flew by overhead. And they realized they could do that with the light from a campfire on a rock wall behind them, or a wall of trees. And then they started cutting out figures. So this one is from Indonesia. If you look at it, it's made out of leather, animal skins, which was something that was always around, and they flattened them and they painted them, and they could use them to tell stories, and they even articulated them. They put little pieces of string or sinew between them to make the joints move. Here's my puppet. He looks pretty impressive painted. They painted him before and after a show to show off their artwork, but it's really just a shadow. I am the ruler of the land, and I decree that you will all do your homework before you go out to play, right? Did I hear that right? Say right. In fact, our new cell phone lights are pretty neat for doing shadow puppets. They used to use little gas lights or some kind of torch, but these lights can be used to show how sometimes the figures can look really, really big, and sometimes you could just dance around the whole screen with one little light. So if you want to do shadow puppets, you can do them in your home with an extra cell phone light. This character represents the ruler of the land. Another character which I really like, and to me demonstrates the ingenuity of this culture, is this guy. He's a clown. He was used to introduce what was happening next in the show. Hi guys, I'm a clown. My name was Semar, and I always kind of helped introduce what was next happening in the show. Like in this next scene, someone's going to trip and fall. Oh wait, I just fell over some clothes on my floor I was supposed to pick up. Crash. Okay, I'll learn better next time. So he was a shadow puppet that had some really interesting controls, because they figured out a way to use a little leather strap to open and close his mouth with a little bit of a bendy stick attached at the top. And that's how he talks. I have another shadow puppet that used some of that same principle. He's from Turkey. You can tell that by his eye design and everything, but he's here kicking the dog and talking at the same time. And that's controlled by an extra little string. Get away, don't come messing in my yard, okay? Go on, get away. I'm not throwing you a bone, so just go. Of course, most of our puppets are friendly, and they tell all kinds of different stories. These are puppets from Indonesia. They're made with an animal hide, like a water buffalo hide, something like we would use deer hide with. I have another puppet here. He is from China, and as you can see, he's got color in him. People in China really liked flowers, they like artistic things, and they like details, so they made their puppets out of sheepskin or a lot of very thin animal hides, and put dyes into them when they were making them. I am the ruler of the land, and I decree you will do your homework before play. Right? Say right. Oh, right. Rod puppets. They're puppets on a rod or a stick. The first ones were from Indonesia, am I right? You're right. This is from Indonesia. When you looked at our shadow puppets, you saw that they were on a stick to the body and 2 sticks to the hands. They liked to do shadow puppets at night because it was cooler then and more people would come out and interact. But they also did puppet shows during the daytime. So they found trees and they carved puppet heads and the bodies and had sticks put to them And now we have a puppet that's three-dimensional and fun to interact with. Oh, you like people? You could wave at them. That's it. Show them how alive you are. Right. Now this puppet, he would be done to a lot of high-pitched music and some drumming, and he would be singing about his daily concerns, like, where am I going to eat breakfast? Did I like breakfast? I like breakfast. La, 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 la. Now I'm going to have to go to work. Oh my, I don't know if I like working, but it's good for me. Work, 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 work. I can't wait till lunch break. I think I'll go for a walk. I'm going for a walk, and oh la la. I just saw a beautiful young lady, and I wonder if she would ever like me. I wonder if I could ever get her attention. I wonder if she has a boyfriend. Oh, well, tomorrow I'll bring her a flower and see if we can meet, and I can find out, right? Okay, back to work. Work, work, work. Trying to sleep at night. Getting up the next morning and going out to find this beautiful. Oh, there she is. She's out there. Oh, what do I do? Okay, I've got my flower. I'm going to go over there. Hello, hello. She looked at me. Oh, yay, yay, yay. This is exciting. Well, anyway, that's kind of like what the shows are like. Those people in my time, well, they had the same concerns that you have now. So, there. Do you like rod puppets? I think we're wonderful. These puppets, they carved a head that wasn't quite a round hole in it. And then they carved what was like a spool. They carved a body. And if you look really closely, and you can, these are carved, this one was carved just like they used to all through the years. They kind of passed the trade down from one generation to the next, just studying how to do it. So they carved a hole in a spool-like part that's also shaped like a body. They've attached fabrics and then put their head on, and then you have a beautiful puppet. He can get mad. He can try and outdo his neighbors by scooting up when he's sitting down. See, I'm sitting down now. And he can move his hands, and he can turn his head. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Oh, okay. Thank you. Nice to meet you. Remember, rod puppets from Indonesia are awesome. Here's some more puppets for you to see. These were made in California. And, well, they were inspired by the Indonesian rod puppets. European people use this kind of puppet with a stage that was right at the level of their heads. And they could tell stories about their everyday life. Oh, I have to go to a ball. I've got to dance with all these girls because my parents think I need a wife, a princess. Actually, maybe the ball wouldn't be so bad because at least they serve food. They used to have stages right at the level of people's heads. So all they had to do was have these puppets up on sticks. And then, you know, it's always looking up and it's hard on your neck. So somebody got this crazy idea that he would take a stick and put it in the head and hold the puppet behind a screen and perform for it that way. And then it was easier to look over a screen and down to see what the puppet was doing. The Sicilians, they made puppets on sticks and they put them in heavy armor, and they had horses, and they did fights and battles, and it was a really neat way to do puppets. But a lot of other people started doing puppets that way too. I'm going to show you one of our rod puppets. This is called Don Quixote. He's from Czechoslovakia, and European people did a lot of detailed type puppets, so he represents that. People who made puppets at first found if they just had the neck very flexible, they could rest the puppet on the ground and make him walk around and just move him like this. But after a while, they realized if you put a walking stick on him, this hand that's holding the puppet could be moving his feet, and the other hands could be moving his hands and arms. I'm Don Quixote and ready to save the world. Anybody out there need rescuing? As long as there are no dragons or windmills, I'm fine. You have to read the book to understand the whole thing. Now, what's really interesting is the people in France, their church leaders started hiring puppeteers to tell their stories. And the favorite story was about Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus. And Mary was the most popular puppet of all. She was a revered character, and she was the most beautiful puppet ever. When the children started coming to watch the shows and Mary was in it, they would say, oh, we're going to see the show with Little Mary in it. They couldn't wait to see the Little Mary show. Do you know how to say Little Mary in French? Marionette, yes. And so Et meant little and Marion meant Mary. So that's how marionettes got their name. And now any puppet around the world is called a marionette. In our country, marionettes are puppets controlled from on top. Wait. Let me introduce that. We're now talking about marionette puppets. That sounds awesome. We have one from Tunisia who demonstrates just the puppet that's controlled on top from a rod that could be bounced around. Here is a marionette that is from northern India, very far northern India. There was one family that decided that they could help their favorite story by carving the heads and rolling up some of the silk fabrics that they had and making a puppet character that could dance around. Their story was like West Side Story or Romeo and Juliet. It was about two families fighting and feuding and not getting along. And at first they all fought and tried to steal each other's property and didn't want to have anything to do with each other. And then a young man from one family fell in love with a lovely lady from another. And they found out after a while they could be friends, and there was a happy wedding. And then everybody lived happily ever after. And you have a lot of puppets from this culture playing musical instruments. He's playing something like a mandolin. And I like to tell children that he's wearing his tuxedo. Does it look like a tuxedo? Probably not like we know. No long black pants or vests or suit jackets because it's too hot. These pants help fan them when they're walking around and are a lot more comfortable to wear in a very warm climate. So yes, he's wearing his tuxedo for a wedding celebration. Our next puppet is from Africa. I like him because he not only is a marionette on strings, which is something they use a lot of, but he also is wearing a mask. We think masks are a part of puppetry because when you put the mask on, you become that character and you make that character come alive. Let me show you something special about him though. Not only can he move his arms and legs, which a lot of our puppets do, and he has a walking stick so he can walk, but in this culture, if you're a part of the ceremonies, then you need to be able to move your hips. I don't think I can move like that, but people in South Africa that made puppets like this had their puppets dance during ceremonies and do a type of dancing that they like to do. Thank you, Mr. Puppet. He's doing a special ceremony to have favorable time on the rabbit hunt. He's even got rabbit furs on his feet, and this mask is supposed to be some kind of rabbit spirit. Here are two puppets from Burma, which is now called Myanmar, and they had a culture that really liked a lot of detail, like mouths that moved. Let's see if I can make him move his mouth. There you go, mouths that moved, hands that were articulated, which means they could move. So here's his hand opening and closing. And I've had some children wonder why she was wearing a mustache, but really he's a very important ruler of his land, and he's wearing his kingly robes. And it's also a hot climate, so lightweight robes and clothing that covered him but still fanned him a little bit were comfortable to wear. Now we're coming to a couple of puppets that we actually made here. These were our puppets for The Sound of Music. A shepherd boy and a girl with a pale pink coat and a little goat. There's our goat. Right. They were marionettes that we used with junior high students to help perform the song in that movie. This girl can talk. Hi, how are you? She can move her head back and forth as she's thinking, and she could walk. And then we have our goat. Our goat is kind of fun because it would only take 2 strings to make him work. But we wanted to give him a little more character. And the one thing about marionettes is you're always trying to find the best way to string it so it can do all kinds of movements people and animals normally make. He puts his feet out when he wants to slide forward, so that looks a little bit better than just sliding on with his feet behind him. And he moves his ears when he's excited. If you say things like grass, he gets really excited because that's what he likes to eat. And even though if you look closely, he doesn't have a way to open and close his mouth, if you hold your hand out, he can look like he's eating. And look at this. Now he's eating. And so on stage, from at least 10 feet away, he looks like he's really eating. Or he can even run backwards. Thank Thank you, Mr. Goat. See you later. How about marionettes that are imaginary characters? Check this out. This puppet is a dragon. We had to invent different ways to make him walk, make him look at people, make him talk, and even change his personality, because sometimes he was mean and growly, and sometimes he was a sweet, innocent dragon looking for a friend. Would you be my friend? Move his claws. This dragon head was made out of a latex material. We had to sculpt his head out of clay, cast it in a special kind of plaster, and then pour a latex mold. He's got a really special secret about him. One thing about puppets is you could hide symbolic things in them too. So if you're careful and you watch right now, we love to tell you that one time he was a Chinese wise man who turned himself into a dragon so he could live forever. Here's our Chinese wise man with a little fez hat that kind of goes up and then has a flat top and a tiny goatee beard, and he looks like this. Can you see his face? And this dragon too can fly. If you want to see him, only flies backwards. You want to see him fly? Here he goes. See you later. He's got a little friend that I think is really fun. He's a dodo bird. This is one simple string, a four-string puppet with one extra talking string, because when I pull on this string, he talks. He's like a lot of young children I know. Once they start talking, they won't stop. See, if you come in close to see these puppets, we have some famous puppets. Kermit and Miss Piggy, and another puppet that spent a lot of time on TV named Lamb Chop. We have some puppets here from northern India, and instead of playing a mandolin, the gentleman in the background is playing a bagpipe, and his wife is dressed up for the wedding too. Farther north in a country called Nepal, there was another culture that wore masks and did dancing for their ceremonies. So we have this person with a leader's face and a mustache, and then right next to him some other masks that would have represented wild pigs and some other important people as part of their ceremonial activities. And over here on this side, we have puppets from China. The Chinese people like to recycle some of their beautiful ceremonial gowns and turn parts of them into puppets. So we have a puppet in the front that's very old. He has his face painted to tell you what a strong, mean, fierce warrior he was. And then we have the dragon dog. We'd like to share you the story of the dragon dog because for some reason, a leader came back from another part of China and he was explaining all about a big, monstrous dragon that had the face of a dog and curly hair and big blue eyes like a lion and a huge nose. Well, the people of this town that he came to only knew flat-faced Pekingese dogs, and their hair was all straight, so it had to be in pin curls if it was curled. And this is what came out of the description of what a dragon should look like. That's changed since then, but their early parades used that type of character for their activities. Well, we've been talking about shadow puppets and rod puppets and marionettes, but there's another kind of puppet that's just as popular and kind of like me, only smaller. It's called a hand puppet. These first ones are from Germany. Steiff was a company that specialized in making figures for puppetry. They later turned their puppet making into stuffed animals, but these are earlier ones. Did anybody see Little Red Riding Hood or Prince Charming in the red hat? Or maybe two of the seven dwarves, a couple clowns, King Midas with the Midas's touch, and a genie from the lamp, all favorite storytime characters. Here's a few more of our hand puppets with Mr. Punch as a Elvis-type cowboy. Mr. Punch being a deep sea diver, and remembering Jacques Clouseau is called Jack Klutzo, a mermaid he was chasing, a friend of Casey at Bat, who also struck out, and a political friend of Mr. Punch, Uncle Sammy, who was running for office. We have a collection of puppets that like to clown around. Some of them are very cartoon-like, and some have a much more realistic appearance. We have puppet artifacts from several different countries and cultures, from early masks and early marionettes to just carved figures that help tell stories. We also have puppets from the Southeast Pacific, like Japan, China, and Burma. And we have interactive puppets too. That's right. I'm Marva Sophia. I come from a long line of sofa cushions. I'd love to be your friend. Here you can see our mechanical eyeball. You can change its focus by moving the sticks. One stick moves the eyeballs horizontally and one moves it up and down. You're invited to guess what matching storytelling characters are behind the sliding doors, or pull strings to animate our leaping leopard Marionette. Watch him dance. Good job there. Good player. Or help our favorite drummer and fiddle player make music. Way to go, Mr. Frog. Ribbit, ribbit. And our fiddle player. Love how he's keeping the beat. We even have a lovely master piano player. I think she's playing chopsticks. Guess who's in the doghouse? Come and see how many dragons we have. Here is Simple Simon, who is always tossing his pet pig. These marionettes were built for the Sound of Music Goatherd song, and they love to demonstrate their mountain climbing skills.
And taking a big bow. Oh no.
And famous puppets.
Some people know Pinocchio. There's a more famous puppet than that. This way, come here. It's Mr. Pulcinella, also known as Mr. Punch.
And we also have a couple Appalachian lumberjacks that can double as rhythm instruments. They were first developed in the United States. And here are puppets we've learned to make.
Here's styrofoam puppets and recycled jug puppets.
Dancing scarf puppets.
Smart hand puppets.
Bottle puppets. Tongue blade puppets. And tube puppets.
Shut her mouth.
Okay, there you go. And don't shut it too tight.
Okay, well, we've had a lot of fun. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you later, alligator. And what else do we say?
The end.